Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the EV Tourist. And this episode will likely be the last kind of trip report from our trip out to Utah. This is the last kind of adventure that we had as part of that trip. There'll be plenty more details and more things I can share about the locations, and there will be plenty of more trips. There's all kinds of content still coming, and I appreciate you following along with this kind of adventure that we had. But today we're going to focus on something that got kind of added last minute. Not really last minute, but this was not part of the original plan. In essence, as we were looking for things to do on the way there and on the way back to break up this long trip, we discovered reference to a salt flat in Oklahoma. And I paused there when I heard about it, and I was like, wait, a salt flat in Oklahoma? Yep, it's there. It's around Cherokee, Oklahoma, and it's kind of off the beaten path a little bit. But what it is this salt flat in Oklahoma with a free Selenite Crystal Digging Site. You can just show up, and you can dig in this salt flat for these selenite crystals. And in fact, they're called hourglass selenite, and they're only found here in this one particular salt flat. And what makes them special is they have these sand occlusions in them that look like hourglasses. And if you're into the crystal thing, selenite has some properties around, dealing with negative energy and things like that. If you're into that kind of stuff, this is going to be a great place for you to visit. My wife was super excited, and this ended up being an incredibly fun spot. Now, I will say, it's off the beaten path a little bit. We had to get off the major highways. Charging really wasn't an issue. We actually skipped a charger on the way to the salt flat, and we skipped a charger out of the salt flat. Still had plenty of range to get here. So this is very doable if you're going to stay, or if you're going to be traveling through Oklahoma and you're going to be in the Tulsa area or you're going to be in the Oklahoma City area. Really easy for you to get to. So I'll let you kind of watch this rural trip through part of Oklahoma, and then I'll come back in and talk a little bit about how it felt and what it was like kind of cresting the hill and seeing the salt flat out in front of you. So enjoy this footage. So you'll know you're getting close when you pull off of the rural road you're on into this gravel road, and you take this kind of in, and as you crest over the top of the hill, you see this sea of white out in front of you, and that is the salt plain. And then this particular place, there's an area you can pull off at the beginning, has a little bathhouse, a little opportunity for you to read about how to dig for these, the local wildlife, things like that. Get yourself prepared, and then it's about another mile drive out to the dig site. They actually cordon off very specific areas and tell you where to dig. Bring a shovel, bring a bucket, bring some water, and I believe you can take up to 10 pounds of crystals out with you at no charge. All right, so for our last adventure of the trip, really, other than driving home tomorrow the rest of the way, we are in Cherokee, Oklahoma?
Yes.
Cherokee, Oklahoma, at the Salt Plains Selenite Crystal Dig area. And I will tell you, it was absolutely bizarre to come around the, kind of come over the top of the hill and see white salt flats. So we're going, I think it's about a mile out there. There's a bunch of cars out there, and we've got some tools. You can see Brian waving them, and we're going to go dig for selenite crystals. So let's see how this goes. It's also gorgeous. It's like 70 degrees and sunny with no wind. Everybody excited?
Yeah!
Yay! Here we go.
Shall we?
So once we picked our spot we were going to dig, I'll talk a little bit about what our plan is. Now, this spot ended up not being good, and we ended up changing our plan. But in essence, the research we did told us that you find a spot, and you can find crystals pretty much anywhere in the dig area. And you've got this like thin layer of a salt crust over the top, and then a sandy, moist soil kind of underneath. In fact, it's almost completely sand. And what they tell you to do is dig a hole, maybe a foot, foot and a half deep, until you get some water start to seep in, and make it relatively large, and then you can use that water to kind of wash down the sides and start to look for crystals. And you might find clusters of crystals, you might find individual crystals, you'll find them of all different shapes and sizes. I will tell you, when we first started digging and sorting through here, we were finding little bits of like quartz or whatever, and we kept thinking, I wonder if this is a crystal, if this is a crystal. It's not. The selenite crystals are very specifically shaped. They're kind of thin, generally pretty long, and they have, crystalline edges. I'll post a picture up here of one again so that you can see what that looks like. So we spent quite a bit of time here digging, and just kind of getting used to what that takes. I would certainly recommend a bigger shovel than the one we brought. We just had a little travel, like, emergency shovel with us. A full-size shovel would have made a huge difference here. We also brought plenty of bottles of water for us to drink and also to wash crystals off. We brought 2 buckets so that we could put crystals in. We could divide and conquer a little bit. We brought a picnic blanket so we had a spot to be, and made sure we had sunscreen. The weather was just absolutely stunning. It was, 70 degrees and sunny and just fantastic. And there were a ton of people out here doing their thing. So I'm going to let you watch a little bit of our crystal digging fun, and then I'll talk when we move to the second spot. I'll talk about how we actually found crystals and kind of what that looked like. So after digging for a little bit in the first spot, we weren't really finding anything. In fact, I don't think we found a single actual crystal at that point. And so one of us got up, and I don't remember exactly who it was at this point, but one of us got up and kind of looked around a little bit. And we had read before that looking at previously dug sites and mounds of sand with, kind of salt over the top of them often would lead to good results. And we started to see people tending toward one edge. And so we wandered over and started talking to some folks, and they started pointing out these mounds of sand that were sitting there that were, kind of salted over again. And we started picking through those. They were right on the edge. We were being very careful not to go out of the crystal dig area, which some people were, but we were trying to be good. And we started to find crystal after crystal after crystal. And so we spent maybe 25 or 30 minutes at the first hole. We spent 2 hours along this edge here, just going from little pile to little pile, digging a little bit, and we found a ton of crystals by the time we were done. And of course, as soon as you start getting into crystals, the kids just absolutely went nuts. And so Bobby and I were in one little spot, and Nicole and Brian and Brittany were in another spot, and then we ended up kind of coming together and working through some things, and it just ended up being a blast. We were covered in sand by the end of the adventure, and just had an absolute great time. We very much will go back to this spot. I will say, things that we learned kind of toward the end of this: definitely have a change of clothes. Now, we did have that, but also have a way to change. So what we actually did is we opened both doors of the Rivian and kind of hung that blanket that we had brought with us over the top of the doors to create a little changing room. That worked incredibly well, let everybody change clothes. I would bring more water out than you think you do, because we ended up using some of the water to wash some things down and ended up just not having enough. We wished we would have had a little more water just for our own comfort. It's not like we were dehydrated, but the kids wanted more water. The other thing I would say, as I mentioned earlier, make sure to bring a real shovel and gloves, small tools, and like I said, plenty of water for not just drinking, but also kind of rinsing things down. I cannot recommend this activity enough. This was so much fun. We will go back and dedicate an entire maybe weekend to just spending time here. There's also a state park in the area, gorgeous part of Oklahoma, and we just really thoroughly enjoyed this. So I'll let you watch a little bit more of our crystal digging adventure, and then we'll kind of wrap her up. So as we wound down our day, digging salt crystals in the salt flat and the sun is setting, we took off and headed for our hotel for the evening. And, we came off of the main road, we came up through Cherokee to the salt flats, and instead of heading back down, our hotel that evening, I believe, was in Tulsa, and so the GPS took us on a slightly different route, and ended up being a really pretty drive. We ended up driving through a little more country road and then onto this kind of 2-lane highway, and it just kind of took us for a while until we needed to charge and needed some dinner. And dinner ended up being at a place called Brahms, which is like a burger and ice cream joint. Really, really delicious food. Didn't get any video or pictures of it, but I discovered when I made a trip down to Dallas, Texas this summer, that Brahms is apparently all over Oklahoma and even parts of Texas, very common down there. So many of you have maybe been there. I had not, being from Illinois, because we don't have them up here, but thoroughly enjoyed that. So I'm going to let you kind of watch some of this drive, and then I'll come back in and we'll wrap it up here at the very end. All right, so as we wrapped up our charge and our dinner for the evening, we realized that our vehicle, now after this, many days of travel and off-roading and salt flats and all of the things, that it was filthy. Still on the inside by the time we were done with what happened next, but on the outside it was covered in red mud and dirt and salt and all these things. So we found a car wash, and we thought, we'll try the touchless car wash. It's fun. It's got lights. The kids loved it. It was great. We figure we'll get this done and we'll move on to our hotel for the night, and that would be great. We finished with the car wash, we pulled out, we stopped and took a look, and that particular car wash was completely ineffective. There was still a ton of mud and dirt and stuff caked underneath, so we stopped and, again, used the kind of self-wash and the power washer and got it cleaned out. And then when we got back, we got it detailed. I will say that if you're going to go to the Oklahoma Salt Flat, one of the big recommendations for your vehicle is to get it washed relatively quickly. The salt in that particular area could be really corrosive to metal bits, especially on the underside of your vehicle. So we really thought that this was an important thing to do, and it didn't take very long, even though the initial car wash didn't actually do the job. But then we headed on to our hotel and spent the night. So great trip. The hotel we stayed at in Tulsa had one of our favorite things, a charger. So we were able to charge overnight, and we woke up the next morning and made our final trek back home without any issues. So this is a great spot to stop if you're going to be in Oklahoma. I cannot recommend it enough. Great for family, great for individuals, great for kids, great for everybody. But really what I want to do is I want to stop and thank you guys for watching this video. I want to thank you for going on this adventure with us, not just the Salt Flats, but if you've watched the rest of our videos about this road trip out to Utah and back, I really appreciate you guys coming on this journey with us. And if you have any questions, things you would like to know more about, adventures you would like us to go on for you to kind of explore, let us know in the comments below and we'd be happy to interact. Again, thank you for watching the EV Tourist. Thank you for being on this incredible journey with us, and we will see you next time.